Alright, Rob talks controversial hockey here. So previously, we had talked about the Western Conference NHL teams that had a chance of making the playoffs in the 2020, no, that doesn't make sense, in the 2019-2020 season. And of course, it's all fun and games to talk about the teams that are going to return. However, if teams are going to be entering the playoffs, that means that teams are going to be leaving the playoffs. Hockey is known to be one of the most random, uncontrollable sports in the world. And because hockey is such a team-oriented sport, there is a reason why teams like the Edmonton Oilers, who are led by Connor McDavid, just the best player in the world, and are still not a playoff team. And a team like the Vegas Golden Knights, who were predicted to be a last place team, make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, kind of based on their synergy. With that being said, again, keep all my opinions with a very fine grain of salt. I am in no means kind of saying that these NHL teams that I mentioned are going to be non-playoff teams. However, what I am saying is that there's more question marks surrounding these teams, whether that's because they're aging or whether that's because they're relying too much on young, unproven talent. So all I ask is to be open to the many surprises in terms of which teams succeed and which teams start to decline. So in today's video, we're going to be highlighting which Western Conference teams may not make the playoffs in the 2019-2020 season. The first team that may not make the playoffs next season is the Dallas Stars. Now, I'm a big fan of Dallas. I think they have a lot of talent to be a dominating team in the playoffs. However, they are a team that's had a very strong track record in terms of underperforming and having a very inconsistent play. They missed the playoffs 3 times in the past 5 seasons, even though many people predicted them to be in the playoffs, especially with having major pieces like Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn being in their prime. It's pretty interesting how inconsistent their playoffs have been. However, adding Joe Pavelski, who may be that missing leadership piece, and of course having young rookie phenom Miro Heiskanen definitely helps. But they are a team that I personally always think is going to be a cup contender, but then I'm disappointed. And a big reason that the Dallas Stars saw a lot of success last season is because Ben Bishop had a tremendous season. He actually had a career year last season. And I think a lot of the Dallas Stars' success is going to depend on if Ben Bishop can maintain that play and just keep being consistent. This past season, we saw a lot of players have career years. Now, that's great for them. However, it can lead to some, unrealistic expectations. Because, of course, having a career year means that they are at the peak of what their production has been throughout their whole career. It's kind of hard to expect them to keep going up from there. You can kind of only expect them to go down. Now, I'm sure there's going to be many cases where players go in and have an even better season. So, for example, Nathan McKinnon, I think, is going to have a better season. Connor McDavid's going to keep producing. Alex Barkov. There's lots of players that may continue to have growth and continue to have better production, but most players will most likely trend downwards. The Calgary Flames are a team that had a lot of career years last season. Giordano, of course, won the Norris Trophy. Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau had all tremendous seasons. But I think it is kind of fair to expect some decline in terms of production, whether that's because the players are getting older or because they had a career year and that production really isn't sustainable. It seems like ever since Mika Kripasov left the Calgary Flames, they've always had goaltending issues. Inconsistent goaltending has always been the Flames' Achilles heel. They of course just lost Mike Smith in free agency where he went to Edmonton, and then they signed previous Oiler Cam Talbot, which is pretty weird, but I guess that happened. And heading into next season, I think a lot of the Flames' success again is going to be tied to the consistency of goaltending. However, if Cam Talbot does have a big bounce back year, then I would expect the Flames to be in the playoffs, but it's a big question mark. It's a big risk to take. The Colorado Avalanche are the next team on my list. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. The Avs are one of my favorite teams. McKinnon is definitely one of the most electrifying players in the NHL. In fact, he's the definition of electrifying. However, the last couple seasons, the Avalanche have been a team that severely lacked scoring depth. Yes, signing Kadri is definitely going to help, as well as acquiring guys like Donskoy and Burakovsky, but besides Kadri, there still isn't guys that I consider, a bona fide top 6 talent. Guys like Donskoy, sure, they're great bottom 6 forwards, but they don't add that 20-30 goal season that maybe you'd expect from a top 6 forward. And I'm not saying that I expect them to play in the top 6, but it's definitely something to keep note. That, this offseason, they weren't able to obviously acquire a bona fide top 6 forward. Yes, of course, now the Avalanche do have some great young talents within their system. Tyson Jost, Bowers, Martin Kaut. You know, players that are really going to help depth scoring. But again, it is a big risk to depend on young talent. Now, for a guy like Tyson Jost, yes, he's been around longer, so expect, you know, some better production out of Jost, some more responsibility. But for guys like Bowers, Martin Kaut, do not expect them to be big impact players, or else, you know, that's just going to lead to inconsistency. The Avalanche are also a team that lost their backbone on the defensive blue line in Tyson Barrie, but they definitely do have two players, two young rookie phenoms, who could develop into one of the deadliest defensive pairings in the whole NHL, that being Cale Makar and Bowen Byram. However, again, like I just said, both Makar and Byram have tremendous potential to be really top two defensemen in the NHL. However, between the two of them, there's only 10 games of experience, which of course was Cale Makar in last playoff run. And of course, Cale Makar did look great in those 10 games, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should count on him to be a top two, if not top four defenseman. Now, if Bowen Byram and Cale Makar walk in and both play really well, they both turn into, you know, decent top four defensemen, then surely they will fill Tyson Barrie's shoes. But it is a big risk to depend on young talent. Now, another thing to note is goaltending. Now, of course, Varlamov just left in free agency to the New York Islanders, and even though he hasn't had the best couple seasons for the Colorado Avalanche, it's definitely nice. It's definitely a nice luxury to have two goalies who can split starts, whether that's obviously Varlamov or Grubauer. And the thing about Grubauer is I personally think he can develop into a decent starting goaltender in the NHL. However, Grubauer has never really even played past the 40 game mark. So the fact that he's going to have to adjust to playing, you know, 60 plus games next season, it's going to be a big test to see if Grubauer can obviously sustain consistency and maintain the pace that he was on last season. But again, the Avalanche are led by guys like Landeskog, Rantanen, McKinnon, a lot of great players, but they do have a lot of question marks in terms of scoring depth. We'll see if that pans out, if their free agency signings were enough. And of course, they have some pretty big question marks on the blue line, that being Makar and Byram. However, if the scoring depth does get better and Bowen Byram and Makar, you know, transition well into the NHL, I think the Avalanche are actually going to be a very good team. But there is a lot of question marks, so I guess we'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, to kind of sum it up and really analyzing, well, going through the process of last video and this video, the Western Conference is going to be very interesting to watch this upcoming season. There is going to be a lot of close battles, and besides some of the, you know, the more rebuilding teams like the LA Kings, there is going to be a lot of close games and a lot of fun hockey, fun, entertaining hockey to watch. And as a Canucks fan, it's going to be an absolute blast, but obviously, you know, pretty scary to watch, to see a lot of nail-biting, meaningful hockey being played. But anyways, guys, that's just my opinion. Again, keep it with a grain of salt. I'm not even saying that these teams are just going to be sliding right out of the playoffs into draft lottery positions. No, I'm just saying if I were to see any teams, it would maybe be these teams. But definitely let me know down below why I'm wrong, or perhaps why another team has a chance of sliding out of the playoffs. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys' support so much. And if you guys haven't noticed on my channel, I am finally monetized. Now, I definitely do this for fun, guys. In no means am I doing YouTube just for the money. You know, that's not even a question. But it's definitely going to be great to have some more income. It's going to relieve some stress off work. So, hopefully, the content is just going to be going up. And thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.